when you do your create your own stuff, how do you build your team? How does that come about? If you want to use, and you can use one of your books as an example for something that you think is a good idea, was a good example of building a team and it worked.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about doing a creator-owned book, you have to think about it like a marriage,
Mm,
right? Like, at least for me, because the artist on the book is going to be a co-owner,
hmm
right? And if they're a co-owner, co-creator, that means we're married on this project forever, right?
hmm
You're not going to marry somebody you don't like, right? So first of all, you got to think about, do I like this person? Not only do I like their art, but do I get along with them? Do we have the same taste in comics? Do we have the same ideas,
hmm
or the same drive to make this book as good as it can be? And as a writer too, like, you get a lot of artists who approach you who like, hey, let's do something together, right? And there's a lot of reasons why, like, that doesn't always, most of the time, that does nothing really comes of it. But I think, like, finding someone who wants to just really create something with you,
hmm
versus just draw what I say, which is kind of boring to me. I want somebody who's going to bring new ideas to it. So, I mean, when my creator own stuff, I tend to work with the same artists a lot, because of that we get along really well, and because we know how to work together, and because I really like their art and we work well together, and all that stuff. I think in general, I try to make at least now I'm coming around, I try to make the creative team as small as possible. I letter all my own books now. And the reason isn't because I think I'm a better letterer. Like, every letterer out there who's a professional is better than me, right? But I have total control over the way it looks on the page and the way
hmm
the words look in the balloons. And it is not fair to some letterer for me to go back for 7 rounds of revisions because I don't like the way a word is breaking and I want to redo the balloon,
Yeah.
right? So for me, the thing about being a writer too is, like, if you think, like, once you turn the script in, you're useless, just get out of the way.
Yeah.
But, like, I like being involved. I don't like being useless. So I try to, I letter all my own books, and I do all the color flats for my own books as well, right?
Yeah.
Just because, if we have a letterer, if we have a colorist who's joined the team, or if the artist is coloring or something, that's the most time consuming part of coloring, right? So, like, if I can take that off their plate, that's going to make them work faster and better, and they're not just doing the drudge work. And I also think, as a writer, there's something to be said for, if you're doing the color flats, you're looking at every panel of art very closely, right?
Sure.
And I think I have come up with a lot of ideas for things because of things I've spotted in the art. For me, it's just trying to keep the team small, 2 or 3 people, maybe. If we can do the book just me and an artist, do the whole thing together, great. If not, 3 of us, great, right? Like, the things I'm working on now are mostly either 2 or 3 person teams, and that's just because I think that's the easiest way to get the book, for me, to the finish line, that I can be most heavily involved. So, and I feel like I'm being worthwhile. I feel like I'm adding something after the script.
Sure. Now, because I'm also a writer and I cannot do any part of the art at all. I know what's in my head, but I cannot
Mm,
actually do that. Do you recommend for writers that they do learn some of those technical pieces? Like I have a basic idea of lettering as well. If I
mm,
have to pick another part of it, lettering would be the one that I could probably do the
yeah.
best. Not great, but you know what I mean. Do you recommend for writers to learn, even if they never use that skill frequently, should you know the other components and at
I
least a
recommend
knowledge?
Yes, I recommend learning to do everything. And
Okay.
and and by learning to do everything, I mean trying it at least once. I'm not an artist, but I have drawn stories and we published them in anthologies, right? So I've written, I've drawn, I've lettered, I've colored, flatted, I've done design work. I've spotted blacks on
Mm-hmm.
inks, like on actual boards for artists
Yeah.
before, but just to help get to the finish line, right? So, like, I think it's worth it to learn to do all those things for a couple reasons. It isn't about, for me, I think once you start lettering as a writer, you go, this is hard.
hmm
And when I'm asking for all these revisions, what a pain in the ass I'm going to be to the letterer, right? So let me write my scripts with that in mind. Let me write my scripts thinking about the burden I'm going to put on the letterer later. And if you don't care about that, you should be paying your letterer at least twice what you're paying. That's what it comes down to.
Makes you a little bit of a leaner writer, right? You can kind of,
Exactly.
yeah.
And even like doing like color flats, right? When you're on your fourth page of a crowd scene
hmm
and you're just like, huh,
Huh.
I'm kind of being a butthole by asking the writer to draw this. It really makes you think about what's really necessary for every single scene and every single panel. There are things I work on that are heavily detailed, right? With like a lot of background detail and things happening in the background. And then there's a book I'm working on that has almost no background. It really makes you think about what's necessary for the story, what's necessary to sort of get the ideas across and to sort of tell the story and engage the reader. And especially when you're doing creator owned books, right? And like you're either working for very low or no pay or back end or whatever. The last thing you want to do is have your artist just stop drawing because the scripts are too busy. There's too much happening. There's too much going on, right? So I think those are definitely good skills to learn. To learn how it's all done shows you how difficult it is and helps you understand what everybody else in your team is going to be doing.